Podsmashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-bit Podsmash.
Is that your
gaming goes to grab a bottle of wine?
Ooh, Frank Sinatra over here.
A little Frank Sinatra, yeah.
Is that what that was?
I've had Fly Me to the Moon stuck in my head recently, which has gotten me in the mood to play Bayonetta.
Yeah,
and I haven't because I don't have a way of playing it anymore because I sold the Wii U copy I had, and I don't have the Switch copy yet. But it's on my list of if I ever want to snag a cheap game, I have it on my list. But it has got me want to play Bayonetta. But I've been singing it to my son before, as a bedtime song, just because it's been stuck in my head. So, and we're doing an episode tonight for Valentine's Day, since it's this week that this episode airs.
It is,
and we're talking about video game character relationships, romantic or otherwise. But we will be spending a lot of time on the romantic relationships. So we got a little bottle of wine.
We did. We changed it up. We are a weekly video game podcast, smashing together ideas that you care about with video games. And usually we have a beer. We're gaming goes to grab a beer. But tonight we're drinking wine.
Mm-hmm. We are drinking 14 Hands Hot to Trot, which is one of my favorite red blends. Does it have any description? It does. Let's see here. Aroma of ripe berries balanced with smooth flavors of black cherry and plum. 14 Hands wines are inspired by the unbridled spirit of wild horses that once inhabited the Columbia River Basin and stood a mere 14 hands tall. The terrain that gave these small horses their endurance and strength now feeds our vines. Our wines celebrate these horses and the heritage of the land they once roamed.
Ooh.
So I do love this wine. This is why I grabbed it.
Fruit forward, pretty sweet. I heard a comedian or someone bash 14 Hands and said it's wine that tasted like tire rubber.
No.
This one's not that one.
No.
But there is a 14 Hands that I used to like until I heard that, and then I drank it. I can't take that away from me. This one's pretty good. Yeah, it's from California, Columbia Valley.
It's like drinking it's not quite as sweet as grape juice.
Washington.
It's not quite as sweet and intense as grape juice, but it does taste kind of like drinking alcohol grape juice.
It's pretty sweet.
It's not like you're dry. It's very, very wet. Got a very wet taste.
Yep.
Not dry. Doesn't suck the moisture out of your mouth, which is what I like. So I know you described to me today, you want, whether it's an IPA in your beer or whether it's a wine, you want it to suck all the moisture out of your mouth and then punch you across the face with flavor.
Yes. Bold, in-your-face flavors are my favorite.
This is much more subtle. I would not describe this as bold.
Right. No, this is easy drinking, like you said, juice-like in every way.
I love it. Get yourself a bottle, y'all.
Yes.
All right.
Hot to trot, 14 Hands.
So we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about of one single thing.
Yep.
So we don't want to take up all the time talking about this. So we're going to try let's just try to blast through it but be as thorough as possible. So, some news, some updates since we last recorded. Things have gone down in the gaming industry, particularly with our favorite villain of the gaming industry right now, and that is, once again, we are here to talk a little bit about Blizzard Entertainment's most recent folly.
Oh dear.
And
it's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot, so we're going to try to be as quickly as possible.
They're still in hot water for Hong Kong, by the way.
They're still in, at least as far as we're concerned, they're still in hot water for all of the crap they pulled at the end of last year. And then, they were hoping to smooth some things over, I think, with the release of Warcraft 3 Reforged. Mm-hmm. Well, it came out.
Yep.
The first thing I saw someone say, well, that's dead on arrival. And the Metacritic score, when I saw it, the day it came out, was sitting at 2.5.
For the user score.
Yep. It has now dropped
to 0.5.
0.5 user score on Metacritic with something like I saw over 8,000 negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad, y'all.
It's very bad.
It's a multifaceted discussion, so we're going to try to hit three major points, try to sum it up for people who are following this. For people who don't care about Blizzard, we apologize. That's why we're going to make this as quickly as possible. But they have certainly made it easier to boycott them just with the release of the most recent game since the controversy. That's what's hilarious to me is the most recent game. You know what I mean? Every game company hopes that when they get in the hot water for something that they'll release a game, their next game will smooth everything over.
Right.
And
Gearbox did that with Borderlands 3.
Yeah, exactly.
When Randy Pitchford was in hot water for the thumb drive.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And now it's no, you know how he got up and said in front of everybody at BlizzCon, we'll do better? It's well, apparently not, because you continue to do these things. So, it's multifaceted. Number one.
I want to talk about the acceptable use policy on the custom games.
So you want to go straight into the predatory practices?
Yeah, we're going to start with the worst and kind of the less worst, but it's all bad. So, coming off of Blizzard, where they wrongfully banned Blitzchung and stripped him of his rights for protesting in favor of Hong Kong against China,
because they were worried about losing that delicious Chinese money.
Exactly. Now they've come out with Warcraft 3 Reforged with a custom game acceptable use policy. And you guys might know Warcraft 3 had a pretty awesome custom game engine.
Robust custom engine.
Very robust. Yep. So much so that MOBAs came out of it.
Right, yes. Warcraft 3 is the origin of an entire multi-billion-dollar genre of video games right now.
If you've played or heard of Dota 2 or
League of Legends,
or Heroes of New Earth, or whatever game you play of that flavor, it started with Warcraft 3.
Yep.
So Blizzard obviously wants to protect their IP and things that come out of it for future, right? So that's the context that I read this in.
Yep.
We're going to get more. Okay, so I'm just going to read from Blizzard's actual literal policy, but it's just one big paragraph.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read the whole thing because we'd be here for hours. So about ownership, here's what it says. Quote, custom games are and shall remain the sole and exclusive property of Blizzard without limiting the foregoing. You hereby assign to Blizzard all of your rights, title, and interest in and to all custom games, including but not limited to any copyrights in the content of any custom games. I'm going to skip that sentence, and I'm going to say, you grant to Blizzard an exclusive, perpetual, worldwide, unconditional, royalty-free, irrevocable license, enabling Blizzard to fully exploit the custom games or any component thereof for any purpose and in any manner whatsoever.
I want to read that again.
Holy cow.
You grant Blizzard exclusive, perpetual, worldwide, unconditional, royalty-free, irrevocable license, enabling Blizzard to fully exploit whatever they want.
And it continues. You further agree that you should Blizzard decide that it is necessary, you will execute any future assignments and or related documents promptly upon receiving such a request from Blizzard. So that means they can just come after you and request everything from you about your content that you are creating.
So any materials you may have used outside it, spreadsheets, calculations, code.
Yep.
They can basically request that you hand that over legally, and you have to.
And here we go again. I'm paraphrasing a little bit more, so I'm skipping ahead. To the extent you are prohibited from transferring or assigning your moral rights to Blizzard by applicable laws, to the utmost extent legally permitted, you waive any moral rights or similar rights you may have in all such custom games without any remuneration.
Okay, so we have to break down what are moral rights. Essentially, people explain this on Reddit to help everybody out and understand the situation.
Explain it like I'm 5.
Yeah, ELI 5 moral rights are basically you have anything you create, you have moral rights over. We have moral rights over 80-bit Podsmash. If in the court of law we can prove that we were the first ones to come up with 80-bit Podsmash, even if we don't have it copywritten, even if we don't have it trademarked, we can say we have moral rights over it. And if anybody uses our material, we can claim to at least require credit. They will have to credit us.
And that no money,
yep.
no
so anything out there, you have. That's what moral rights means. Is you morally have a right to claim anything you create. Period. Blizzard is requiring you by using their custom map editor. You're signing a document saying you waive any and all moral rights, which means Blizzard can claim credit for anything you make with their map editor. You can't take them to court and say you have to credit me.
Right.
They will just basically say we came up with this idea.
They could, yeah.
So so you can't profit off of it. That's what the intellectual property is. That's what you're assigning over. They own the intellectual property.
Yep.
They can force you to hand over any documents or any materials you use to create the thing.
Yep.
And you can't even claim credit for it. It's scorched earth predatory. And again, as we talked about, I understand they lost $1 billion, basically.
Yeah, more than that, yeah.
Yeah, with
multi-billion-dollar genre. Yeah.
What they're doing, and we broke this down, what they're doing is twofold. They are preventing any talented designers from using their tool. Period. Anybody who's reading this, who reads this with half a brain, will just go, okay, I'm going to go use Unreal Engine or something.
Or Unity.
Yes, something.
Even Dreams in PlayStation 4.
Oh, exactly. Anything that will allow me to maintain the rights to the hard work I put into it.
Yep.
And then two, they're saying, what they're then trying to do is, anybody who is naive enough to continue to use that to make games, they're going to take everything. So what this specifically is essentially targeting is first-time game designers who don't know any better.
Yep.
And the immediate population that comes to mind are kids. Kids who are just trying to dip their toes. They have Warcraft 3, or maybe their parents bought Warcraft 3. You know, maybe their dad was a fan of Warcraft 3 and bought Reforged, cast it aside, and then they're picking it up. And, oh, there's a cool map editor. I have a cool idea for a game. If that game is a hit, they don't get anything from it.
And imagine
it's so predatory. It's just so predatory in my mind.
Is. And I still don't know what would happen or what the implications would be if we made a game, it's a custom game. Obviously, everything in Warcraft 3 belongs to Blizzard. You can't claim anything from it. But what if it was so popular and so cool, they then remade it outside of Warcraft 3 with an entire engine from the ground up?
That's exactly what League of Legends did. And
would that still go back to Blizzard?
Yes.
Because at that point, it's not using anything that belongs to Blizzard.
Doesn't matter.
So it's not made
the
in
game there with
no.
This,
You would change the name, right? So
with this. Well, okay, yes, that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to actually just rebuild the game and
outside of Blizzard
change everything about it. But they may be able to claim the code or whatever.
This does give them some leeway to do that.
Absolutely gives them a lot of leeway, and so that's what
it could just be a mess.
So we just say,
don't make games in this thing.
Don't make games in this thing. I would say don't even buy it.
Right.
And that's, again, points 2 and 3.
Yeah.
The second fold controversy of this is that the game is just bad. The people who wanted to play it for the sake of playing it, it's got tons of bug crash, like playing multiplayer, the game's probably gonna crash. It's buggy, it doesn't work, it's got slow frame rates. I've heard they locked the unit movement.
Oh, wow.
The unit movement is locked at 20 frames per second. 20 frames per second.
That's jagged.
That means when you move them, it doesn't matter how pretty they look. When you move them, they're going to look like robots going across the screen because this is 2020, not 2002.
Yeah.
And you could get away with 20 frames per second in a game engine that's
from 2002.
That's exactly 20 years old, 18 years old, but not anymore. You know what I mean? Like in 2020, any game engine with something moving at 20 frames per second is going to be noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Very noticeable.
Especially if the camera movement and everything else around the environment is 60 frames. Mm-hmm. The animations of the movements themselves are really going to be jarring. Yeah. And that's not good.
People are additionally pointing out the fact that before the game came out, Blizzard removed a bunch of features because there was a small vocal minority of the player base that were no change purists. So hashtag no change purists. And they said, so Blizzard originally announced the game and said, we're going to do new cutscenes, we're going to have new voiceovers, we're going to have additional campaign content, and we're going to try to do some tweaks to the story to bring it more in line with the MMO, with World of Warcraft. Yep. And the purists were like, no, we just want an up-res version of the game we already have and have already played a million times. Mm-hmm. And so Blizzard removed all those features. So there was a large amount of the player base that was like, no, we wanted this to be, this game was essentially going to be more like a reimagining, more closer. It was in its original intention was going to be closer to like Resident Evil 2 remake. You know what I mean? Right. They were going to be remaking the game, a whole overhaul. Mm-hmm. And they removed all those features, and now it basically is just an up-res version of Warcraft 3, the original, the legacy game.
So much so that what they showed at BlizzCon doesn't exist anymore.
Yep, exactly. You can look at it side by side. Yeah, we'll see if we can add the link into the description. There should be a link to the side by side comparison video of the 2018 BlizzCon trailer when they first announced it.
Yep.
And the actual cutscene in game. And it's
if you guys remember the original Warcraft 3, all of the cutscenes were done in engine with the camera just kind of being in different various spots. And what they showed us at BlizzCon was an actual cinematic, which is very much like what World of Warcraft does.
Was what they were showing off though was it was still using the in-game models and animations. Yep. They did a more robust they did more cinematic and robust camera angles.
Right. And no like frame around the screen with the subtitles. It was like actual cinema.
Now it's
just still in-game engine, but the graphics have been severely downgraded.
And it's just zoomed out like it would be in the game, like it would have been in the old cutscenes. Yep, exactly. So, okay, all of that is, it's like, it's bad, it's about to get way worse. And the threefold problem of Warcraft 3 Reforged is it retroactively ruined the old game. And I don't say that lightly. I don't just, it's not like, oh, you ruined my childhood when people say that about the new Star Wars movies, the sequels. Oh, the sequels are so bad, they ruined my childhood. Or before that, it was the prequels, they ruined my childhood.
As an aside, really fast, Termite's idea about things, his perspective is the addition of something new to an already existing thing doesn't make the already existed stuff bad.
Right, you can just go back and watch those things.
And I use that argument with the show Lost.
Yep.
The ending doesn't ruin the show. And Game of Thrones. The last episode or season does not, to me, ruin Game of Thrones in general because there's still 7 seasons that are amazing. And Lost has like 5 seasons that are amazing. And so, and like, really fast. The Wii, for example, has some of the most amazing Nintendo content they've ever created on that system. But some people think that because of all the shovelware added to it, that the whole console as a whole is diminished. And I would disagree.
Right. So
that said,
Termite and I we only bring all that up because we are just saying we do not say this lightly. Right. We do not just say this flippantly like people tend to say it. When we say they ruined the old game, they retroactively made the old game worse. If you go try to buy, if you say, well, I don't want to play Warcraft 3 Reforged, I want to play Warcraft 3 the way it was intended to be played, you can't. I'm sorry. Because
they overwrote it.
They merged the game. What they were trying to do is merge the game clients. I think their intention was, we want to allow people who are playing the old game to benefit from the influx of new players from Warcraft 3 Reforged. So you could be playing in a multiplayer game and be paired with someone who has the different version of the game. Yep. So they brought it all onto the same infrastructure. Well, number one, that infrastructure is bad because it is resulting in game crashes. So people who were playing Warcraft 3 2 weeks ago and had a perfectly stable experience with no problems are now playing it, and their game's crashing and the game's buggy and laggy and janky. On top of that, the new Warcraft 3 Reforged infrastructure removed a bunch of features that exist in the old Battle.net. And now, because they've been merged, all those features are now gone from the original game. And I want you to go ahead and read the list.
So the things that have been removed forever are automated tournaments, clans. Sorry, guys, if you had your friends, guys and gals,
clan,
your clan's gone. Ladder. So any ranking you had, any ladders that you've done, gone. No more. 3D animated campaign backgrounds, 3D animated portraits in Battle.net, / commands in Battle.net chat, communal channels listings, adding other things people pointed out later. Custom campaigns are now gone because I guess the new infrastructure doesn't support them, and Battle.net's news section is gone.
That's not too big of a deal.
It's not a horrible thing.
But the custom campaigns, what the / commands are in Battle.net's chat is like in any chat you can type. You'd be able to type / something, and then things would, it would do different things. It would be execute command code.
Right.
So you could do things like / search for a player and stuff like that, or / whisper and be able to send a targeted message. That's all gone now. I don't know what it's replaced by, but it's gone. It's
gone.
But more importantly, it's the clans, ladders, profiles. Those are big features in the online infrastructure that are now completely gone.
Yep.
And it's not like, they just replaced Warcraft 3's old ladder with the new ladder. No. Ladders are gone. You can no longer see what your competitive ranking is.
That's...
Why? Right? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the controversy. We're gonna try to wrap it up there and just say that
it sucks.
Just don't buy Warcraft 3 Reforged. And please consider not buying anything from Blizzard ever again until they turn things around. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. It's just interesting now because they really stand as the last bastion of, for now at least, the last bastion of terrible. Everyone else is trying to win. Everyone else who's been doing predatory practices for the last 10 years are now trying to win people back.
Right.
EA just released Jedi Fallen Order, no microtransactions, no predatory practices. It really was, Jedi Fallen Order was like an olive branch to their fans.
And it did really well.
And it sold
exactly way higher than they wanted, and they're anticipating 10 million copies sold by April.
The Bethesda's doing the same thing, trying to win people back essentially with Doom Eternal, because it's a single-player focused game and with no planned microtransactions or multiplayer.
Right.
Again, awesome, great, olive branches. The fact that Blizzard and Activision continue to be this last stronghold of awful is again, I only bring it up because it maybe gives me hope. It gives me hope that maybe they'll see the tide turning and maybe turn things around.
Hopefully.
I wish they would do it from some sort of intrinsic sense of morality, but if money's the only thing that's going to, the only language you're going to understand, then hopefully money turns against them. It's cool because people are demanding refunds in droves, and I actually just read this morning, another part of the controversy is they're banning people on their forums who are trying to help others get refunds.
So bad.
How evil can you get? Bad. Just how evil can you get? You know what I mean? At what point do you it's like that old I don't think it was Monty Python, but that old British comedy sketch where they're
I have no idea.
Are we the baddies? It's two dudes beating up on a guy, and they're wearing basically not Nazi uniforms, but obviously skulls and crossbones on their military uniforms. And one of them turns together and goes, Have you ever wondered, are we the baddies?
Yes, Blizzard, you are.
Yes, you are now the bad guys.
How cool is it that Destiny got away?
That's awesome. No, absolutely. Bungie.
How about that for a
well
story?
Done, Bungie. Yeah. I can't speak for the current state of Bungie and their game design, but it is nice to see that, They got away, and they got away with their IP intact, which is awesome.
Did you see the top selling lists of 2010s, the entire decade?
I know. I don't.
If you look at the top,
it.
yeah, it's so depressing.
It is because it's all.
We're not going to list it here, but it's all Call of Duty.
It's basically all Call of Duty,
which is all Activision.
Yep.
So like they've just completely dominated the last decade.
It's like it doesn't matter, right? So
they make so much money,
hand over fist.
Yeah.
But EA made money hand over fist as well,
they
got
Madden and FIFA, man. They're just pumping it out.
They're trying to. It looks like they may be trying to turn the tide, at least with some of their games. So hopefully Activision will take enough of a PR hit at some point that maybe they'll make changes. I don't know. We'll see. The next 10 years will be an interesting to see how things progress. Okay, cool. Is that all we want to talk about with news? Did you have anything else? No. Okay, great. Awesome. Then let's move on to our next segment of the show, which is
Doing This Podcast is Our Favorite Thing. Doing This Podcast is Our Favorite Thing.
Favorite Things. Favorite Things is a segment of our show where we just get to update you about something that we're digging this week, something we're excited about and want to share with you in hopes that you might find your next favorite thing.
Anything from as shallow as how amazing this wine is to as deep as meaningful as you singing a Frank Sinatra song to your son.
Okay, so my favorite thing is not singing Frank Sinatra to my son. But that is fun. My favorite thing is I recently started getting back into the plasma donation racket, just because I used to do that back when I lived in Harrisonburg when I was in college to get some extra spending money, and forgot about it for like 10 years and was talking to you, and I was like, man, I remember specifically it started because I was talking to you. I was like, what kind of side gigs could I do that are like low effort, like high reward in short term without requiring a lot of knowledge and stuff like that? And you didn't suggest this. I came to it on my own. I was like, man,
it's 'cause you've done it
if only I could just like, I don't know, give a part of my body away for money. Oh wait, I used to do that. So I looked up, and at first, I think I had looked it up a while ago to see if I could do it and realized that the company I gave to back in Harrisonburg doesn't have a location here. But I was like, it just like the bonk on my head, like the lightning struck me and I was like, yeah, there's probably other ones. You know what I mean? So I looked it up and lo and behold, there's one that's on my way home from work called CSL Plasma. And, you just basically, like, it as long as you're hydrated and have had like food in your system within the last like 2 hours, then it takes like 45 minutes to an hour to donate when you're actually there. There's a little bit of like clerical work that you have to do ahead of time, but you can make like, depending on like what their compensation plans are, you can only go twice a week, but you can make like $80 a week. And because of like, I'm a first time donor, I made like $160 this week. So I'm well on my way to saving for a PlayStation 5 and feel like I'm now at a more comfortable level of being able to like spend a little money on things, as opposed to trying to hoard it all for games in my PlayStation. Like, oh, this is my entertainment / research for the podcast budget, like, and this is all I get. Like, now it's like, oh yeah, I can, be a little bit more free with some of the money, and I can go out with dinner or I can go out to lunch with my coworkers, or I could buy my wife Chick-fil-A, which I did this week because I was just like, I'm buying you Chick-fil-A because you let me go donate plasma for 2 hours. The first time took 2 hours only because I had to do a bunch of like extra stuff, exactly, sign up stuff. But now going forward, it's like an hour, maybe an hour and a half of my time after work, and I can make a decent amount of money from it. So
how about that?
I feel good. I feel good about it. And I don't feel any worse, and my arms aren't even sore. I think I remember they used to be sore all the time.
So they've gotten better at it?
So I guess I've just got, either they've gotten better at it or I've gotten
used to
my arms are a little stronger, maybe. I don't know.
Calloused veins.
I do. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. My junkie scars are now going to be back in full force. So, so that's my favorite thing is donating plasma. If you are strapped for cash and just need something to help you get by, it really is not a bad way as long as you have healthy blood. And by that, I mean you don't have any infections in your blood, which I will be family friendly and not go into details, but you can probably surmise what kinds of things may put you at risk. But if you're a healthy person and have, need something to do to get a little bit extra cash on the side, it's not a bad way of doing things. So it's not unhealthy to donate plasma. No. And you actually like help people and stuff. Right. So there's that too.
People need it.
Yep.
The medical community needs it.
They make like medicines out of it for various conditions. Mm-hmm. So, yep.
Sweet. My favorite thing is I just took a trip for work to Indiana.
Okay. Random.
I've never been to Indiana before.
Yeah.
So I landed in Indianapolis and I did some research prior to about some places to visit or things to see. Mm-hmm. And there was an arcade there.
Okay.
It happens to be in a mall, which I didn't know upon Googling it. Mm-hmm. So whatever. I was parking in a mall parking lot.
Did you leave a bunch of business cards there?
I did. I talked to 2 folks. Yep. I left some business cards there. But the arcade is called Boss Battle Games. And the reason why I'm talking about this at all is because it was an entirely new business model I'd never seen before.
Oh, sure, please.
And it was very intriguing. So you walk in, and it's $7 an hour. Or
you did talk to me about this, yeah.
$10 for the full day.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I paid for an hour because I had an hour to kill. Every arcade in this place is on free play mode. You can play whatever you want as often as you want. Of course, I went in the middle of the day on a Monday, so it was dead. I'm sure if there was a crowd there's probably some etiquette. But you can play whatever you want for as long as you want for an hour or the whole day if you spend $10.
$7
for 1 hour.
For an hour and $10 for the day?
Yep.
Okay.
I definitely got my money's worth.
I mean, no all you need to do is spend 2 hours there and you've already made, it's worth it.
So I was playing, they have an amazing library of arcades. So if you're in the Indianapolis area and you are looking for some boss battle games, some arcades.
Hey, y'all open up one in Virginia, please.
Yes, please. Yeah. So they had a Dance Dance Revolution machine, which used to be.
Now, is it just an arcade or is it a barcade situation too where they have
no drinks? Okay, no just drinks. Arcades.
I honestly don't mind that because I feel like circuit arcade and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, the games are going to get all sticky.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had like little cup holders. But no, none of that. There's no food or drinks there. Cool. They had a small retro gaming selection that you could buy. They also had video game consoles set up. Retro game consoles. So they had N64, Super Nintendo. They had PS4s with Mortal Kombat 11. So like they had modern consoles hooked up too. All of that's part of the unlimited play.
Yeah.
So they have Dance Dance Revolution. That's $1 per 3 songs. So that's $1, right? So I paid $7 for an hour. I played that. They had F-Zero AX, which is the arcade equivalent to the GameCube game, F-Zero GX, where you could actually take your GameCube memory card with game data and plug it into the arcade.
Oh, cool.
And like transfer data between. And I've only ever seen one at Disney World. I've never seen them around.
Yeah.
And it had a seat that moves. So you have to buckle in, like a little seatbelt, and the whole seat moves as you race, like up, down. Like they had one. I was like, I've never seen this.
That's awesome.
There was an authentic Initial D, which is a drifting racing game, Japanese anime. Like completely Japanese. Everything about the thing was in Japanese. The voices, the text. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like going through the menus, like, yep. Super fun place. They had a whole line of retro games all the way back to Defender and Tron, Frogger, Mario, Popeye, and then they had a whole line of all the Mortal Kombats 1 through 4 all lined up next to each other. It was a blast.
That's awesome.
I was by myself, unfortunately. I wish I would have had some friends. So that's my favorite thing. Go check them out. They're awesome, but I was just like amazed at the business model. I'd never seen it before.
That's
so
awesome. That's
shout out to Fredericksburg's getting an arcade, a barcade called Reclaim in April.
Nice.
And I'm trying to reach out.
Cool.
And we'll, who knows what'll happen with that.
Test the waters. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So those things are our favorite things. Now we'll move on to our last segment before the main topic, which is
DLC.
Downloadable content is DLC, and it is a segment of our show where we have just a fun discussion, similar, sometimes related to our main topic, sometimes not. And it's meant to be something, the conversation about video games you might not normally have. So, our DLC today is in honor of Valentine's Day. We're going to acknowledge the fact that Valentine's Day can be a hard holiday for some people. Some people who want to be in a relationship, but are not, for whatever reason.
And then there are people who are single on purpose.
Yeah, and people who are single on purpose that don't want a relationship.
Get this Valentine's Day crap out of here. Yeah, I'm single and happy.
Yeah. I used to call... Never mind. I'm not going to talk about what I used to call Valentine's Day.
We're family-friendly podcast.
Yeah. So in honor of singles, we're gonna do but for in honor of the singles who are looking and who are diligently putting themselves out there, we're gonna this one's for you guys. So we're gonna take a video game character that we know is not in a romantic relationship based on the games that they're in. And a character, maybe two, and we're gonna come up with a dating bio. So like a Match.com bio or eHarmony or Tinder, whatever various popular dating apps and dating sites exist out there. We're gonna do a singles bio for video game characters. So I have one. If you off the top of my head,
yeah, go for it.
All right, Tails.
From Sonic.
Nice. Yeah.
From Sonic the Hedgehog.
Because he doesn't have because Sonic has Amy, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I think Sonic has Amy.
Sonic lore enough to...
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would Tails put on his bio?
Always overshadowed by everyone else, trying to make a name for himself.
Looking to fly high with someone special.
His name is Miles.
Right, yeah.
So Tails Miles Prower is his last name.
Oh, yeah. Wait, is it Miles Tails?
Well, it's like Tails is in quotes, but it's Miles Prower.
Tails Miles. Okay, yeah.
His name is Miles Prower. miles per hour.
Oh,
miles per hour.
That's funny. Yeah.
In the intro for Sonic 2, if you plug it in your Sega and turn it on, it's like it has that.
What would his picture look like? Would he be like cute? Would he be trying to
have his tails.
Would he be trying to be attractive?
In
a heart?
Yeah. So he's got to have, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So he'd have his tails behind his head and a heart, and he would have his head off to the side, winking.
Mm-hmm.
With like, I don't know if he does a kissy face or not.
Yeah. Is he just looking for a good time, or is he looking for someone to?
Oh, he wants to commit.
Yeah, he's in for commitment. He's looking for a new partner.
Right.
Sonic's off gallivanting with Amy and doing his own thing. Mm-hmm. So he's like,
Sonic puts him in how much
I want
danger
someone to
all
run
the time?
with. Looking for someone to run around with. I'll carry you across the gap so you can't.
Yep.
You can't make yourself. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, he's looking for commitment. Yeah. I agree. All right, what's another one?
I was thinking of Star Fox came to mind, but I think there's Katrina.
Katrina, yeah, I think
is kind of like a love interest.
Long-term boo.
Then I'm thinking of Luigi.
I was gonna say we could do Falco. Oh, Luigi. Poor Luigi. Doesn't he have something going on with Daisy though?
Not that I know. I mean, I've played the games that I've played Luigi games,
right?
Luigi's Mansion.
We're gonna have to talk. There's gonna be some relationships we have to talk about. Like we're gonna talk about the nature of some of these some video game relationships because there's some questions I have.
Yeah, Luigi. I think there's never an official like girl for him, and he's always in the shadow of Mario.
Yeah,
and he's
so is he looking for commitment or is he just looking for a good time?
I feel like he would be an amazing husband.
I feel like Luigi is
super
gonna
dedicated.
say he's looking for a good time, but really is trying to find love.
Yeah,
is trying to find like long-term commitment, but he's gonna play it cool, play the games, but like not cool because he's super awkward.
He's extremely awkward.
He's very awkward. His picture is probably him like with one of those smiles that like, you know what I mean? Like I'm forcing a smile, but I'm not really happy inside.
Kind of a mugshot.
It's kind of like, yeah. It's the awkward.
He's lanky
one of those awkward
and tall
smiles.
and kind of stretched.
Yeah,
it's what he looks like, and so he's just wobbly and flops around a little bit.
So he's gonna have somewhere in his bio, somewhere in his self-description, he's going to have like the words. I always find myself as like a permanent third wheel.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, poor Luigi.
I wonder if relationships are more terrifying to him than Luigi's Mansion 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's haunted.
Yeah.
He would totally put something in there about being haunted, lonely heart.
Yep. And a good cleaner. Yeah. Because he can vacuum very well.
Very good at cleaning. Yeah. It would be just like, it would be all this like poor sad sack, poetry, and then also really good at cleaning.
Yep.
I'm also an exceptional cleaner. Yeah, that's Luigi.
Yeah.
Good plumber. Good at plumbing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, all right. Do you want to do a third one, or are you good with Luigi?
That's all I got.
Tails? All right. That's all you got?
That's all I got.
All right. So that's our DLC for the day.
DLC.
Okay. All right. Whew. Talk about love. Talk about relationships.
Let's talk about love, baby. I censored that, by the way.
When I brought this topic up to Termite here, I used the term video game ships because shipping, or the short for relationshipping, is like the hip slang Reddit cool lingo that people are using. I don't know if they're still using it or not.
It's what the cool kids are saying these days.
The cool kids are saying like, oh, I want to ship these characters. So when you ship characters, it's usually like kind of a fan fiction style relationship, or it's or like, how people will take characters and say they give them like a couple name because they want their team, like it goes all the way back to like the Twilight days when Team Edward and Team Jacob. I never read Twilight, but
oh wow, that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so like when fans ship characters, it means they want those characters to be in a relationship, hence the term shipping. So I brought that up to you, and you were like, what? We're going to have a podcast about boats on Valentine's Day? Yep. Are you trying to... I'm like, no, oh my gosh. I had to like school you on what shipping means.
And then my mind went to like packing them together and mailing them. And I'm like, what?
Death Stranding, the video game.
Oh my gosh, that game is so good.
It is fun. Although I have another gripe, but like a minor, tiny gripe. Okay. But it's actually relevant to this topic, so I'll get to it.
Sweet.
So yeah, we're talking about video game relationships or shipping or cutest couples, but we're going to also talk about relationships in general, like in video games. So characters, not all the relationships we're going to be talking about are romantic by nature. We'll probably talk about a little bit of platonic relationships, a little bit of familial relationships and stuff like that. So it's going to hopefully be broader than that. So we'll just start by talking about why are relationships important to character development in storytelling in general, and then why specifically for video games. And then we're going to expand on that and say, how can video games portray relationships in a way that other media can't? So, cool. Let's start with the first one. Why are relationships important for character development?
It gives the characters something to raises the stakes.
Yes, that's exactly. I was hoping you'd say that.
Like people care about other people, and they can manipulate that relationship. They can leverage it. They can exploit it. You can build on it. You can really give somebody a character arc. Like it's shown through relationships. Like I feel like in real life we are the most introspective whenever someone outside of ourselves that we care about deeply points things out in us.
Right.
That makes us want to change. And so like that can be applied to characters.
Right. And I mean, storytelling is essentially human beings have only ever told stories as a way of like communicating. At its core, storytelling is a form of communication.
Yeah.
And
what's the point
if you're communicating with the point of communicating is relating to one another, and we can all relate to relationships because we all have them by the very virtue of existing as human beings. We have relationships with one another. It's just a core function of our biology. Even people on like the asexual spectrum, they still crave companionship, and like they may not want necessarily the sexual component of a relationship, but they do want like companionship and affection and friendship and all that stuff that comes with relationships. So across the entire spectrum of human experience, there's not a person on this planet that hasn't craved or wanted a relationship. So yeah, we all can relate to one another. So when you're telling a story or crafting a story, it makes sense that it's going to really focus around I don't think there's a story that exists out there that does not include some form of relationship, whether it's mother-father, friendship, romantic. It's always there, and it's core to human experience. It's core to human conflict. The best conflicts are conflicts of relationship. So yeah, they're always going to be there.
Motivations for characters to do things.
Cool. So why specifically for video games then? Like why should video games include them? Why do they include them? What works about having relationships in video games as a specific medium?
There's no better way to suck a player into a story than to give them a relationship that they can either identify with or not like, or, it's a thing that you are as a player going to be more interested in a story if there's a relationship at stake. It just like boosts the appeal.
And video games are in a lot of ways about completing objectives, right? Like you're trying to, you're trying to save the president, eliminate all enemies, get this thing, go to this place, explore this thing, discover this thing. Like almost all video games are like all video games in some way, shape, or form have some form of action. You're trying to solve this puzzle. You know what I mean? Right. You're trying to do something. So not all video games need relationships. There's no reason for relationships. You have to worry about relationships in Tetris or Minesweeper, other than, I guess, the relationship of the pointer to the,
your
the
relationship
mouse.
to it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Other than that, of course, there's no storytelling in those games. They're just puzzle games. But, for any game that does have a story, having a relationship can create clear objectives. Like it's an easy way to create clear objectives. Like whether it's shallow, like save this princess, or whether
Mario.
It's deep, like, I want to win her back. I want to grow as a person so that she can come to respect me. Whatever it is, like, or whatever kind of complex character development. Or God of War, I use the example of God of War. Like, I want to become a better person. I want to protect my son. You know what I mean? Like, it can create clear, objectives that the player can then understand and empathize with the character so that they feel those things too. So it can create illicit emotions, in the gameplay that wouldn't exist otherwise if it was just eliminate all enemies on the map.
Right.
Even if that's all you're doing, essentially, eliminating all enemies on the map, you can feel some kind of connection to why you're doing that. So I think it's really important for immersion purposes.
Yeah. And I think about like first person shooters, something that's not what you would lean in on. Oh, there's a relationship. Well, if you're playing some sort of modern military shooter, which Penguin Man loves modern military shooters.
So much.
Not so much. Your relationship is like you're fighting for your country, or like some sort of like objective, even if it's not a person to person relationship. There's still like a relationship
and the good ones,
the context of your character in the greater scheme of things in the story, and why your character is doing something.
Yeah, and the good ones give you like a squad or something,
and then you would have the interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, so I think of like Halo Reach, where it's you and your Spartan squad, and you get to know those characters, and you get to care for those characters. So when things happen to those characters, you feel the stakes. Or even back at Halo 1, you have Cortana. You have this voice, this person with you, even though they may not be a couple in the sense of we are, romantic, sexual partners, they still have a connection.
There's a romance.
Yeah, they care for one another. Mm-hmm. There is some kind of weird romance between the two of them, for better or for worse.
Looking at like a shallow, even Call of Duties.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's cool about those is there's really good ones and then the really bad ones.
Yeah.
The bad ones and the good ones, the main difference is how well they articulate the relationships and the stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And an interesting part of like video, I think an interesting part of relationships in video games, especially in the mid 2000s, and even in the early days of video games, it was hard. And we're starting to see this mold break now in the 2010s, but like for a long time, any relationship in video games was rooted in some kind of like there had to be some kind of danger. There had to be some kind of antagonist, someone who didn't want the two to be together and was putting their relationship at stake, whether it was directly threatening their life or by, kidnapping them or what, you know what I mean? Like there was always an element of danger. So there was like, so when it came to relationship storytelling, it was in video games, it was very much, there was an element of antagonism that had to exist because, you know what I mean? But I think we're starting to see that break now. And you can see like games like Journey, for example, even though that's not necessarily a romantic relationship, the partnership between you and someone who you then later find out is an actual player.
Yeah.
But at the time, when you first play it without knowing anything, you may think it's a NPC and the relationship is like, there's no danger necessarily. It's just a partnership built out of mutual discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and other games too. I think of is it What Remains of Edith Finch, or is it?
That is a game.
Yeah.
Where you are a mom who's pregnant that goes back to the house that she came from, learning about her family tree. And within each room, because this house is huge, it's a big mansion, and there was a giant amount of people there, within each room is a family member who had died. Mm-hmm. And when you relive their experience prior to them dying.
That's a great example then. There's no danger necessarily that if there's any kind of danger considered, it's all happened in the past.
Right.
So it's literally just a character trying to connect with those she cares about or connect with her family history. That's interesting. That's new.
It's done really, really well. Yeah. And like one of the flashbacks is you're a young child, and so you are running down to a swing set, and how did this child die? Well, he swung on a swing set off of a cliff. And like jumped off a cliff and died.
Yeah.
And so you get to experience that. So the danger of falling and danger of your life, but it's done well enough in a whimsical kind of like childlike manner that it's kind of fun and exploratory. You're like, oh, I'm actually going to die. And then you go back to the pregnant mom who was like, oh, learning about her family history. So
cool. How can video games portray relationships or expand upon relationships in a way that other media, storytelling media, such as television, movies, books, comic books can't?
Not every game does it. But dialogue choices
are
a very unique way that is exclusive to video games that allows you to kind of control how a relationship goes.
And even all those games where you can like woo someone over and the simulation of choice. Like I think of Fable, for example, where you could... Is it Fable? It's Fable. Where you could like actually get married to like any NPC in the game. That was Fable, right?
I think or not like, any NPC, but you could
many, There were many options. So you literally you can simulate choice, which we have in real life in a way that like books, like other than like choose your own adventure books, can't really do. So even if no matter how much you're on Team Jacob, if you're reading Twilight, you cannot change the end result. I guess spoilers for Twilight.
The author writes the story, and that's
chooses
the way it is.
Who the characters end up with. Yeah, exactly.
You watch a 2-hour movie, the relationships, the story happens, and that's it.
But there's like in The Witcher, there's like 3 or 4 different sorceresses that you can choose to engage in intimacy with, or choose not to, depending on how loyal you want to be to the one you like.
Right.
So and that's something you absolutely can't get in.
There's a whole genre of games called dating sims that are like usually Japanese, very anime.
Yeah.
But it allows you to woo whoever you want and anything. I mean, Fire Emblem dabbles in this. Persona, the series, definitely dabbles in that. And a more Western example would be Mass Effect. Apparently, there's multiple females you can choose, or males.
And in some people might scoff at that idea, outside looking in, like that's so juvenile,
right?
But like in my mind, I'm like, I think it's in some ways it's good because it can serve to help be a training simulator for people who might not otherwise know a way to learn those skills, because learning how to talk to someone of the opposite gender is like very hard.
Or learning how to talk to somebody that you have feelings for.
Yep.
Period.
So putting yourself in a context where you can like, you can then empathize with your character, your avatar, by like, oh, I do like this character. I do like this one. Like, what are the dialogue choices that like will result in? And of course, people are just going to look up guides. But for those who do want to like feel it out and practice it, it's actually a pretty decent like simulator.
Right.
Because let's be real. In real life, there are right and wrong things to say.
Yep.
When it comes to
real risk.
Picking the right choice of dialogue actually can be,
yep.
You know, and then having it demonstrated how to deliver that too. You know what I mean? So it really does give. I think a lot of people might scoff at that, but I think there's definitely a market, if you will, for games that can help teach people how to talk to one another in a way that talk to one another when you have like an objective. And I don't want to put ulterior motive. That sounds like a negative connotation, but everyone has objectives. Everyone wants something when they talk to someone. You know what I mean? Whether it's, whether it is something benign, like I just want to be friends, or whether it's something also benign, like I like you and I want to get to know you and I want to, you know, I want to kiss you. I want to be with you. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with those things. Of course, you know, if you behave terribly in the way you try to get those things, then yes, it becomes a bad thing. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be with someone in an intimate way. Like
a video game that allows you to exercise your ability of choice and trying to exercise that with no actual risk to your real life.
Yes.
It's a safe space. You could reload a game save if you made the wrong choice. You can redo. You can start over from scratch. There's really no actual risk. Or if you want to play the game in such a way that like the character has the risk and you're going to commit to whatever fallout happens, there's that too. So, yep.
Cool. Let's move on to our next question, which is what kinds of relationships between characters are present in many video games, and what kinds of relationships are underrepresented in video games. So the first one's obviously the ones that come to mind. What are the like relationship dynamics that are in video games? There's lots of lots of romantic relationships.
Right,
that's like the low hanging fruit. Like,
obviously,
if you are like, man, I want to see let's say heterosexual romantic relationships. There's a dime a dozen, and that's par for the course in Western storytelling. There's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of them. Some of them are better than others. And this kind of dips into our next question, but it's fine. We'll talk about it now. Like, some of the good examples are like, I think of like I really love the relationship between Titus and Yuna. And even though I don't like Titus as a character, his relationship with Yuna is actually pretty well done in Final Fantasy X. Elena Fisher and Nathan Drake in Uncharted probably is one of my favorite video game romantic relationships.
That one's really fun.
Yeah, it can be a little bit annoying because there's all this stuff that happens in between games that results in them not being together with each game that like, I'm like, I want to see, like, I'm invested enough in their relationship that I want to see what goes wrong, like what went wrong too.
Yeah.
Because you always pick up and they're like, oh, we're not together again. And then they run into each other and then get together by the end.
Yeah.
But that is actually what I liked about 4, because in 4, you pick up with them having been together for a long time. Yeah. And that was probably one of that game may not be my favorite Uncharted, but it's my favorite one for their relationship because like I'm excited to have seen them like make it work and then have an incredible test of their relationship and then still make it work. It's like, it's so aspirational. Like they really are like couple goals, #couple goals. Elena and Nathan. Kinds of relationships that are heavily underrepresented. Obviously the various LGBTQ relationships.
For now.
There are more and more.
Have you played Gone Home?
No, but you talked about it and you mentioned it. Yeah. There's not a lot of, I think portrayal of, like I talked about earlier, portrayal of asexual individuals as well. People who struggle to have that drive in the first place, but still want companionship. But we're seeing more and more. It's very possible that Aloy, like they haven't necessarily been explicit about it, but she has a line in Horizon Zero Dawn where she says, like, that's just something I've never wanted for myself.
That's two-faceted. It could be leaned in.
It could be, right, yeah.
The asexual thing, like you just mentioned. Yeah. But it could also just be, we're not going to allow a relationship to define a female character.
Yeah.
Because in droves, in history of media,
video games,
movies, storytelling, etc., females mostly have in the past existed solely to be a love interest, and that's looked now.
If they do lean into the asexual element of it, though, that's kind of a 2-for-1 because it would be a 2-for-1. You know what I mean? Yeah. They would still have to find a way to. I mean, well, I think they do because it's not that the character doesn't want companionship or affection. She still obviously clearly wants that because like her whole thing, and her whole thing is like she has a whole dynamic with her father figure and her desire for a mother figure and all that stuff. So like clear that she still wants a relationship. And they could even explore the idea of her wanting to be romantic, but not be with someone if they go that route.
Right.
But like, again, yeah, you're right. The main emphasis of that is just her not being defined by
a relationship,
a romantic relationship. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think mother, like and we've talked about this before. We've seen a huge, awesome influx of like paternal, like father to son or father to daughter relationships in video games in the last 10 years or so with The Last of Us, God of War, and even Death Stranding.
Yeah.
You are kind of a father figure to BB. Yeah. And it's really interesting. Like, that's a dynamic that I've been seeing play out and I'm actually kind of into. What we don't see a lot of is a lot of good, strong mother relationships. Yeah. Like you as, like, the player character as the mother. Mm-hmm. There's lots of player characters as the daughter or player characters as the son to a good mother, but there's very few you are playing as a mother. And what does that mean for your character? Right. Like, that's one that I think is way underrepresented in video games right now.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. And Edith Finch, you mentioned, kind of touches on that because you are a very young pregnant woman and you're about to have a kid. And so her wanting to go figure out what her family is, what it means to be a mom, and like where does she come from, what's her lineage, and what does she do looking forward. I won't spoil the ending, but that's kind of what that game is about. It's the only one I've played that I can really think of that has motherhood as the center focus. Yeah.
I also there are plenty of games that have good like platonic relationships too, which is great. There's lots of representation.
Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah. So I think that more games need to lean into, I think they can, there's more depth that can be explored in that though. Like what does it mean to truly care for someone who you don't want to be with intimately?
Right.
But want a different kind of intimacy with, you know what I mean? Because there's, like, platonic relationships aren't not intimate, if that makes sense. But it's just a different kind of intimacy. Like, the intimacy you have with a lover is not the same intimacy you have with your best friend, but that doesn't mean that your best friend you're not intimate with. You don't still care deeply about and want to be around, you know what I mean? Be around and be with. So I think that can be explored really well, too. I still really want a game that is just, like, Bayonetta and Dante killing demons and angels together and just being friends, just being best buds. That is a game I want to exist out there. No romantic relationship at all between them. I don't want a Dante Bayonetta relationship. I just want them to be best friends. That's the game I want to exist. Cool. Any other thoughts about representation?
There was your obscure relationships. Are we going to get there next? Is that?
Yeah. Well, so first let's go ahead and do our list because we did promise to talk about the cutest couples in video games. What are the most famous video game relationships, romantic or otherwise, but we'll probably talk about romance.
When you say what are the most romantic or the most famous, that's kind of like implying objectivity here.
Sure.
But
okay.
I don't know that. I know
what are the most well-known, or some of the most, you're right. What are some of the most well-known to us and to our listeners? Yeah. Obviously, there's the princesses. There's the princesses and the heroes. Mario and Peach. And this is what I want to talk about. Do you think Zelda and Link are a romantic couple?
No.
You don't think that? Okay, because I agree for the most part, except one game.
Breath of the Wild?
No, the one on your poster right there.
Skyward Sword?
Skyward Sword is the closest they ever got. She almost even said, I love you in the beginning scene. Like, she's like, Link, I need to tell you something, and then ... and then bad stuff happens, and she gets taken. Like, but even in Breath of the Wild, I would argue aren't acting romantically towards one another. There are some cute moments that might...
Right, they kind of touch.
They could leave room for it, but like never in a Zelda game. Like people always talk about Link and Zelda as a couple, but I
don't think so. It's just Recipe and the Princess. It's like that relationship that is continued. Yeah, it's a different aspect than Mario and Peach.
Yeah, even Ocarina of Time though, where Link has like a harem full. Like half the sages are girls that Link is kind of romantically involved with. Like he's literally married to Ruto, and then he has a thing going on with Soraya, like a thing with Soraya. I mean, they're talking about them being childhood. Girls? Like Soraya, the Great Fairies.
How about the Great...
Soraya, he has kind of a thing with, but it was more like a childhood love kind of thing.
Is that how you say her name?
Is it Sarah?
I always thought it was Saria.
Saria? I said Soraya because it sounds like Sarah. I don't know, whatever. Soraya, who knows? It's one of those games that doesn't have voice acting, so you don't really know. Pronunciations are over the head. Naburu, you had kind of a hot thing going on with Naburu, at least I thought so, playing the game. Impa, I guess, was the only female character of the sages that you didn't have something. Oh, Malon though, that's definitely there was some vibes with Malon. Zelda was like the character you were the least romantic with in Ocarina of Time. Though.
That's true.
But everyone's like, Link and Zelda, cutest video game couples.
I don't know.
I want them to get. I do. Yeah. I want them. I want a Link and Zelda romantic relationship in one of the freaking games. But every one of their incarnations, they're really just good friends.
Yeah.
and Link's always saving her.
Yep.
And sometimes she saves him back, and it's kind of cool when they do that. So, like, they did that with the recent one to some degree.
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild had it a little bit. Yeah, Breath of the Wild had it actually in droves. She saved him to start with. Like, you start the game 100 years after Zelda saved you. Yeah.
The whole premise of the game is
exactly.
Zelda saved Link. Yeah.
And Zelda saved Link, and now Link has to return the favor, is more or less what it is. And, So I'm actually interested to see how the relationship develops in Breath of the Wild 2, since it is a direct continuation.
I think this is a great platform for me to talk about Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, please do. Yes, this is all Final Fantasy games. Actually, can I preface that by just saying every Final Fantasy game that I have played has been a love story.
Yeah,
in one way or another. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know enough about the stories of 1 through 5.
Yeah,
to say all.
But 7,
I know
6
has a crazy love story, if not more than one.
7 has multiple.
Does. 8, Rinoa
8 absolutely does.
And Squall. 9, Zidane and Garnet or Dagger. 10, Titus and Yuna. 11's an MMO, and I'm not sure if there's any romantic stuff there. 12, I don't know enough about, but there are 2.
Yeah, the core Zelda games that we all grew up with of 6 through 10 are like all of them.
13 is
huge romantic
like
relationship.
Snow, and in Final Fantasy 13, Snow is the dude who is like massively in love with
Lightning.
No.
That's not 13.
No, there's a girl whose name I cannot remember because she's an NPC who gets turned into a crystal because she failed to fulfill her purpose as a Fal'Cie. I don't remember her name.
Final Fantasy games are great, by the way.
Yeah, they're awesome. And then Final Fantasy 14, there was definitely some romance going on, but I don't remember the names of them. And then 15, of course, like the whole game is premised on you start off bachelor party, like the main character's getting married in 15. So like every modern Final Fantasy game has like a relationship.
9 is the one though where like she's getting married to the bad dude, right?
I don't know if Garnet isn't supposed to be married to anyone.
I thought, well, isn't she betrothed to like the evil looking dude, or is that?
I'm currently playing through it, and I don't recall
if her being
betrothed to anyone. No, because Yuna is not betrothed to anyone.
No. There's like a marriage sequence in a Final Fantasy game where you like bust up the marriage and it's like awesome and intense and I loved it.
You sure it was Final Fantasy?
Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking about a different JRPG, but
yeah. Anyway, I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII. The remake is on the cusp of coming out. So whatever that is, I don't know how they're going to change things, but there is Aeris and
there's
Tifa.
Definitely a love triangle. And that's a whole subset of romantic relationships, the love triangle.
But if you play Final Fantasy VII now, before the remake comes out, and you can get it digitally on PS4, it has trophies, it has a fast forward mode and a super cheap easy mode where you can limit break and 4 nines everything the whole time, so you don't have to worry about leveling or grinding. Go get it. It's cheap. Go play it. If you focus on Tifa's perspective, that game is all about Tifa. I'm telling you, Cloud is not the main character of that game. Play the game from Tifa's perspective, and you will see the most gut-wrenching, emotional, relationship-straining aspects of any game you'll ever find. It's incredible. Like
I did play, because you had mentioned that, and then when I recently did my replay, I did try to do it with that in mind, and I disagree with you, but I do still understand your point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are some core storytelling problems with Final Fantasy VII in its current form that I'm interested to see if they fix in the remake by giving more time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of promise and potential there, but I don't know if I agree that it is necessarily Tifa's story. But there is definitely some, I mean, but what you're saying about there being like her character development still is probably one of the most profound of the course of the story, and is not it's not acknowledged often enough by Aeris fans.
Yeah.
Like people who ship Aeris and Cloud as the main love triangle there, which were like most of my friends growing up. They were most sad with Aeris' death because of the romantic vibes between her and Cloud.
Yeah,
and I was always Team Tifa. I'm like, no, Team Tifa.
Me too. Yeah,
but because you can see the fact that like Tifa's there for him when he has his complete mental breakdown and goes like comatose, like that whole thing.
Oh
you're
gosh.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's incredibly emotionally powerful. So yeah.
And then, childhood friends, Tifa losing Cloud to him going off to the military, and then him coming back and his
and the existential crisis of Zack and all that stuff.
It's crazy.
With her being like, well, I don't know, I don't remember, and like she even has, the whole manipulation of memory and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
And I have this hunch that Aeris is not really interested in Cloud ever, and she's kind of like what do you call something that you never get? Like if you're from Cloud's perspective and you're chasing after this thing that you're never going to get because it's not going to ever work. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I feel like
blanking on. There's a term for it. You're right, and I'm
carrot on a stick.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess. But I feel like Aeris has no intention whatsoever to be in a romantic relationship with Cloud, and of course he is. And And so there's that weird love triangle because Tifa is seeing Cloud want Aerith, but Aerith doesn't have any interest in it because she's got her own objective in mind. Like Aerith is very focused on what her role is as an ancient and what she's trying to bring about.
Yeah.
And
if you want,
it's so complex. Final Fantasy VII is incredible.
And video games are like renowned for this, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But like if you want to increase the stakes of your story, include a relationship.
Yep.
If you want to increase the stakes of the relationship, make it a love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You see it too with The Witcher. Question: are you a Triss or a Yennefer?
Triss.
You're Triss?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. But like, I want to be a Yennefer. Like, I think actually, if I were to replay the game, I was always more of a fan of Triss because I think that always thought she was objectively cuter.
Mm-hmm.
But
oh no, Yennefer's way hotter.
But like going back now, I'm like, I actually think I like Yennefer better as a person than I do Triss.
And I thought Triss was better.
Really?
Which is why I went after that.
Triss has like a cool like, I'm trying to liberate people story arc of her own going on.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
But
Yennefer, got some character.
Yennefer has got this whole like dynamic of just like, she also is doing her own thing. And that's what's great. That's one of the things I like about The Witcher is like both of the romantic leads are like, their lives aren't so, they share the same orbit with Geralt, but they don't orbit around Geralt, which is great. Mm-hmm. I think the fact they have their own things going on for them. There's other things to say about the way The Witcher handles relationships, but in that regard. And I do like that they do give you the choice to really lean into your relationship with Triss, really lean into your relationship with Yennefer, or if you want to be a player, you can be a player.
Yep.
They do punish you for it, though, at one point. There's a scene.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, there's a really funny scene.
I think that's the scene that I ended up falling into because I was trying to like not offend either one, and you can't not offend either one and also commit to one or the other. Like you're committing to one offends the other, so like I was trying to
which is great because it's real life consequences or not real life.
So
it's in-game consequences that would be absolutely true in real life. Except real life would probably be crueler in that regard. But
I was team Triss, but I ended up with none because I just bombed at all of it.
That's funny. Cool. Any other? Do you want to go through?
I want to talk about Portal. You have
the companion
cube. Yeah. And like that's between you, the player, which is kind of mute, and like that's the perfect example of a game where you bring yourself into the character because the character's not written for you. It's just a mute character, first person puzzle, Portal game, and you have this companion cube that
we've talked about how they imply that the companion cube is full of the corpses of your former employees, though, right?
Yeah,
it's Aperture employees.
Yeah,
it's like that's terrifying.
It is.
No, and we talked about the companion cube in our last year's episode with the companions, like the pets companion episode we did. Yeah. Yep. But no, you kind of do have former relationship with the companion cube.
You do.
It's even got hard on the outside.
It does.
Of it. Yeah. No, it's definitely a great example of human tendency to imprint on things.
Yep.
Because the affection that you have for that companion cube by the end of the game is completely irrational from any form of logical analysis. But from an emotional standpoint, it's like, well, yeah, it's my companion cube. We solved so many puzzles together. I love it.
And the antagonist completely mocks you and makes fun of you for it, and then you have to burn the thing.
So messed up.
It is so messed up. And I also want to highlight Half-Life 2. You're Gordon Freeman
and Alex,
but Gordon Freeman's a mute, and it's one of those brainless characters that you kind of imprint yourself onto, which is why he's the way he is. I say brainless. I don't mean it's supposedly a genius and he works in a particle accelerator lab, like whatever. But he doesn't have any dialogue. He doesn't have a character with which defines who Gordon Freeman is. You bring yourself into that game and kind of personify him yourself. And then you have a relationship with Alex, who is a very well-defined character, who she is. I don't remember the details of those things because I haven't played them in 20 years. So that's a thing. It's an obscure relationship that no one talks about. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about Alex.
Yeah. No, I saw that in a couple of lists of characters when I was doing some research. Those two showed up on a bunch of different lists. Yeah, there's so many, and there's so many bad ones where it's like this does damage to what people's perception of a relationship should be. But there's a lot of really good ones, some diamonds in the rough of relationships there. And of course, there's the we didn't talk a lot about in this one. We didn't talk too much about familial and platonic relationships, but there's a lot of good ones of those out there too.
Final Fantasy 15 is the story of 4 dudes on a bachelor party, but they all have their points, and they're definitely trying to work their relationships through. And Noctis is the main character who's supposed to be married, and they each have their grievances with Noctis and his various decisions, and so they have to work through that as well as their relationship with each other. Talk about families. We talked about God of War. So
God of War, Last of Us, and The Last of Us has those like. There's also that relationship between Joel and the woman at the beginning. Yeah. And she dies or something, but like still it's like, and that's the, like, there's a lot of the damage that can be done by video game relationships, and a lot of the cliches they lean on are things like women, a lot of female characters that you're told you're supposed to care about ultimately just end up being objects for the main character to save the day, that's the Princess Peach Mario thing, is Peach's entire existence is just an objective for Mario to save.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which can be reductive. Mm-hmm. So a lot of and then there's also the idea of like killing women or spouses or whatever off just so that the main character has some motivation for going to get revenge. So just being a launching, I mean, that's what Kratos' wife in both God of War both God of War stories, essentially Kratos' entire both marriages, you never get to see them. They died before the game started, just as a launching point for Kratos' journeys. Yep. So it's just
a rage.
Right. Yeah.
You
killed my
wife.
Why do we have to, why do they only have to exist so that the main character has a reason for doing what they're doing? You know what I mean? Like that can be kind of reductive and that can be dangerous, but when done well, like then you have like a Nathan Drake and Elena situation where there's actual development between the two of them and they grow as people.
Yep.
Both of them grow as people, not just one. For when a character doesn't just serve to be character development, they should also have character development themselves.
They should.
But I'm hoping we see more of posthumous character development for Kratos' wife as we explore. Kratos' wife in the new arc. His second wife, I should say.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see more of her. Hopefully we see more of her posthumously developed. So either that be through some kind of flashback, or characters talking about her, because there was a lot more. That's what was interesting about her. She actually had character development by the end of the game because she had been holding secrets from Kratos that you then find out about later.
You're like, ooh.
And she may be as much a part of Kratos' salvation as Atreus was, which could be really interesting to see as they develop.
They should do that.
I really hope they lean into it. I also would love to see a game from her perspective.
That'd be
spin-off game.
Who knows what they're going to make next? Corey Balrog?
Barlog. Yeah.
Barlog.
I just want to say Balrog, like the demon from Lord of the Rings.
And I want to say, Barlog. What's the fighter from Street Fighter?
But they're both Balrog. Balrog is both his name and the name
the
of the demon from
That's funny.
Lord of the Rings.
I want to give some shout outs to some other relationships.
Yeah, do it.
Firewatch. Have you ever played that game?
No.
So in the indie space in general, they're the ones that are experimenting with relationships in the best, minority way, and like the LGBT stuff and non-normal, non-traditional relationships are happening in the indie space. So go play Edith Finch, go play Gone Home, and Firewatch. Your entire existence, you are a person who escapes his marriage because it's falling apart by signing up to be a Firewatch.
Oh, yeah.
So you're in I think it's the Iowa or somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you're in a tower. Your only contact is your kind of supervisor, boss, coworker lady on a radio.
Yeah.
And you develop a relationship that's kind of romantic, which is kind of bad because you have a wife.
Oh,
so you shouldn't be, but you kind of are. You never meet this woman, and then it goes crazy and things happen, and the game is amazing and explores like real marriage issues.
Yeah.
Which is really cool and not done in the mainstream at all.
No.
And then you have, I haven't played this game, but Sea of Solitude.
Yeah,
is about the absence of relationships and loneliness and exploring.
That's excellent. Yeah, I really want to play that one.
Yeah, I haven't played it either.
My eye. It's got like cell shaded graphics, right? Like it's very cartoon.
Yeah.
And then also shout out to the Borderlands franchise, as we've talked about. They are a mainstream AAA game that really, many of the characters in that are of non-traditional heteronormative relationships. And they have a few that are there, but they're outnumbered by and the most recent one, Borderlands 3, has been praised actually for its portrayal of two gay characters. Sir Hammerlock and Jacobs. I forget his Wainwright Jacobs.
That's it,
who is one of the best new additions to the franchise. I love Jacobs.
Athena and Spring?
Athena and Janie. Yep.
Janie,
were the lesbian counterpart in pre-sequel.
Right.
And then but they have all kinds. They have Axton, who's bisexual, who's the commando. Flack is non-binary entirely because he's a robot. You have
like those are the relationships I want to see more because it educates everyone.
Yeah.
Like we are WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant white dudes, right?
Yeah.
Like we're normal, quote unquote, in culture and society. We are part of the majority.
Right. And
so I haven't been exposed to a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I recognize it and I want that exposure.
Sure.
I want to see those relationships portrayed more and validated.
Just for the sake of, and also just for the people who
are in that.
They who are in that. Yeah. Right. They should have characters that they can
identify with.
Yeah, exactly.
They should be represented in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Just like we are.
Yep, exactly. So, Gosh, there's more though. There's more interesting ones. Maya is asexual. They imply that Maya.
Oh, okay.
Just doesn't have
she
that
was one of my favorite
interest
sirens.
and drive. Yeah, and that's cool. So, those kinds of things, we very well are probably long overdue for having a conversation about LGBTQ issues and. In video games, and it's one that I am hesitant about just because, again, similar to you, it's like there's just things I don't understand about that, and it can be a hot button in regards for people, and cancel culture and all that a lot of times revolves around that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So if we, I just don't want to say something out of ignorance. I know there was something regarding asexuality in Death Stranding that was like a big controversy because there was like like one of the interviews, how you can unlock the interviews?
Yeah.
One of the interviews was called titled An Asexual World and talked about like the loss of connection and drive between people. But like the way he wrote it, a lot of people who are asexual said this is not representative of us and we don't like this. Because he was basically like equating sexual connection to human connection and saying that Death Stranding is a game about connection and the loss of connection and reconnecting and all that stuff. Like that's the through line theme. And what he maybe intentionally or unintentionally implied was that asexual people don't desire connection, and that's wrong. They do desire connection. So again, things like that where I'm like, I don't want to speak out of ignorance, out of not understanding something. So so we may still continue to avoid that one for now. But we've hit on a couple of those things, and if we've said anything again out of ignorance or lack of understanding, then please let us know, educate us, talk to us, engage with us, and converse with us. We also just want to hear your thoughts on who you think the best video game couples are, relationships are. What do you think the best romantic ones or non-romantic ones? We want to hear all your thoughts on the things we discussed today. So, Termite, where can they talk to us about those things?
The easiest way to interact with us is our Discord channel, which is the link to get there is provided in all of our show notes as well as on our Facebook posts. And you can find us on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit, all at 80-bit Podsmash, 80-bit Podsmash. No uppercases, lowercases, hyphens, or funny business or anything like that. If you are listening to us on YouTube, thank you. And we are on all podcast services as well. So if you want to find us on anything, go to 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website. We have links to Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher. And if there's any other audio platform you want us to be on and we're not, let us know and we'll put ourselves there. Our RSS feed is available for any third-party apps that take those things. I alluded to YouTube. We don't have the youtube.com/80bitpodsmash, but we do have a YouTube channel. So Google us and you can find us. Just look for YouTube 80-bit Podsmash. And finally, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where we are experimenting with our Twitch live streaming game, figuring out what we want to do and kind of exploring things. We'll have more to share on that in later episodes. So if you want to get ahead of the game and be on us, go to twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash and subscribe there so you don't miss anything.
Yeah, speaking of Twitch streaming, that's actually our next episode.
It is.
We're going to be talking about streaming culture in video games and how it's changed, how it's completely changed video games. And again, not to be confused with streaming games like streaming services like Google Stadia or Project xCloud. We're talking about people streaming their playing sessions of games for other people to watch and enjoy.
Like Twitch.
Yeah, like Twitch. So we'll use the term Twitch even though we know there's other platforms that exist. But yeah, we'll be talking just about that and the influence it's had on gaming, the gaming industry and culture. And we may hopefully be able to share more about our Twitch streaming plans.
How about that?
So, all right, we will then see you next week.
See you next week.